month with Rainier Avenue Radio. And did I mention? Every Wednesday night, live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater. Rainier Avenue Radio celebrates Black History Month all month long. Interviews, icons celebrating the history of Black Seattle, community leaders, community activists. In 1852, Seattle's first Black resident arrived. National viewpoints. In 1943, Harborview Hospital hired its first Black vibes. Rick Dupree, Tina Marie, and me, Tony B. In 1961, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made his first and only Seattle appearance. Did I mention every Wednesday in February, every Wednesday night, in celebration of Black History, live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater. I'll say it again. Every Wednesday, live musical performances from the historic Columbia City Theater in celebration of Black History Month. People you know, and some you may not. It's a celebration of Black History Month on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
This is your Rainier Avenue Radio World community update on online Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. If you're looking for an AA meeting, find one every day online at aaphonemeetings.org. That's aaphonemeetings.org.
This is Brenda Charles Edwards, host of Seniors Matter. Join me every week to get information on activities and issues that impact the lives of older adults and their families. That's Seniors Matter every week on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio. The Trump administration opened bidding on drilling leases in the pristine Arctic Wildlife Refuge in Alaska. According to Reuters, this is despite tepid interest from the oil and gas industry and a pledge from incoming Democratic President-elect Joe Biden to protect the region. It is unclear if the move will reverse the fortunes of Alaska's oil production, which has been waning for decades. So far, the only clear bidder on the property, which is likely to be more costly to develop than oil acreage in the lower 48 states, is an Alaska state agency. Environmental and tribal groups argue that the sale would pave the way for irreparable damage to the tundra ecosystem that is vital to polar bears and caribou, and that the federal government failed to adequately analyze the climate warming impacts from drilling in the area. And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not explaining to my intern exactly what R&B is, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Welcome to Real Estate and Money, a half-hour program on Rainier Avenue Radio World designed to help you whether you're a buyer, seller, investor, or renter in real estate. Your hosts are three local professionals who will escort you on your journey. Violeta Strash, who has years of media advertising and marketing experience and brings this extensive knowledge to John L. Scott Real Estate and all our clients. Tina Lombard, who is a mortgage loan originator with Cardinal Financial with over 28 years of experience, and Elsie Chaudoin, who has over 13 years of experience as a licensed real estate broker. And now here's Violeta, Tina, and Elsie.
Welcome to Real Money.
Oh, hello, everyone.
Hi there.
So, Elsie, hit it.
All right. Yes. So we've got a couple of phone numbers to give you before we start our show. If you'd like to call in to Rainier Avenue Radio, please do so at 206-290-9685. If you'd like to call Real Estate and Money, please do so at 206-717-4490. And if you'd like to call us individually, our numbers are right below us, attached to our names. Actually, except for you, Violeta. You might want to add yours on there.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that right now.
Next show.
Daniel, can you put my number on there, please? And I'll just tell everyone it's 206-406-5784. And I'll correct that next time around. Go ahead.
Great. So let's go ahead and start our show off with the weekly housing update. And so this is for the week of January 5th through the 11th, 2021. And this is for our first full week of the year. So let's start off in King County at active 258 homes at the average price of $982,000. We have sold 355 homes at the average price of $953,000. And in 2020, we've sold 280 homes at the average price of $724,000, which gives us a huge increase of 31%. Wow. That's better than last week. All right. Now in Pierce County, we've got active 90 homes versus with the average price of $521,000. We have sold 191 homes at the average price of $487,000. And in 2020, we've sold 170 homes at the average price of $418,000, which gives us an increase of 16%. And in Snohomish County, we have active 76 homes at the average price of $639,000. We have sold 157 homes at the average price of $675,000. And in 2020, we sold 133 homes at the average price of $540,000, which gives us a huge increase of 25%. So we're starting off the year really strong here.
Yeah.
Home
So
prices are still going up.
really quick, Elsie, if you took Pierce County, Snohomish County, and King County, and all the houses that were sold in those three counties in all of 2020, what are you getting?
Oh,
600?
so it's actually just for the week. Just for the week of, yes. So I just did it year by year. So this is for January 5th through the 11th, 2020, compared to this past week.
Yeah, so it's very, very competitive.
I was on a seminar this morning, and we were told that in King County, it's 35% less inventory starting this year than was last year. And average prices, this is King County again, is 10% up. 675 to 740 is the average for King County. And, coupled with the historic low interest rates, oh my gosh, what are you going to do? You got to buy things, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
And
one of the strategies that we talked about today, I'm sorry, Elsie. One of the strategies we talked about today is that a lot of savvy home buyers are selling their homes at a high and renting, and then buying their house with lower interest rates, which is projected to be the case even later this year.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce the rest of the program. We're going to be talking, once again, we're going to have another addition to our series on sellers and selling your home. So we're going to be talking about that the first half of the show. And then on the second half of the show, we're going to be talking about escrow and what to expect on the day of closing. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and start talking about sellers yet in our series.
Okay.
All right, Violeta,
So closing, right? Closing. Here's what I experienced with my house. And this is taking into account what's happening in the market. You can close as soon as you go mutual. Nothing really happens until you get an inspection done. And then later on, then you'll negotiate a closing date, which is, in my case, we decided to go on a Wednesday. Typically, people like to close like 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, whatever. Sometimes you can close as quickly as 21 days. But when you close, you want to stay away now from Fridays and the end of the month, because King County recording, getting numbers back to finalize the transaction is taking a while. And though, Fridays and the end of the month is typically such a horrible time for escrow and title to go through and do all the closing paperwork, it just makes sense to, give them a little break, do it on a Wednesday. That's what I did. And it turned out a little bit better than normal. So that was one thing that we were conscious of. And then you can also do a rent back. Right, Elsie? You can do a rent back if you decide, well, I haven't found a place yet. So maybe that would be one of the conditions on the purchase and sales, that I can negotiate with that buyer. If they want the house bad enough, maybe they'll let me stay a month or two after the fact. Or just get out, which is what I did. Just get out. And then the buyer will have a chance to do a walkthrough before the end of the deal, probably the week before. So it gives the seller additional days. If something happens between when you signed and when you close, say one of the systems broke down, say your furnace blew up, you need to replace that furnace. And so you've got some days that you can add on to remediate, stuff like that. And then what else can I think of? Go ahead, Elsie. Is there something else that you can think of for closing on the seller side?
Yeah, let's go back to the escrow. Yes, absolutely, I agree. Fridays and towards the end of the month is a really busy time for title and escrow. So yes, if you can plan it during the week, that'd be great, and not towards the end or the beginning of the month. Something that has happened is King County, Pierce County, and I think Snohomish County, they have actually sent out, title and escrow has actually sent out notices stating that on the close date, it may not be recorded. However, the title and escrow companies are guaranteeing that they are closing it. So they are taking that warranty. And so let's say, we're closing on the 15th of January and I don't get recording numbers. However, a lot of the title companies will guarantee that that is your close date, and they will then record it the following day. So some changes there.
Yeah, typically it'll come in early in the morning, right, Elsie? So it's not that big of a wait, a long wait.
Yeah, typically what I say is to my buyers or sellers, hey, I'm just waiting for recording numbers and then I can give you the keys. However, it just hasn't been that way for the last several months now. However, title companies will say, yes, yes, we're officially closed. You can go ahead and give your clients the keys at that point. And that's really the biggest thing is when you're dealing with buyers and they've got that U-Haul full of all their stuff. They want to know when they can get the keys to move in. So we definitely want to make sure that, that's something that's mentioned to our buyers and sellers as well. The other thing is, yes, you do have a right when you are a buyer to walk through the home before you close. So I just want to make sure that buyers do know that they do have the right to walk through. But yes, do make the arrangements with the seller in order to do that. And then a great idea for sellers is also, purchase that home warranty, because if there is something that happens between the time that you're listing the house and you're moving out, let's say the furnace goes out, that home warranty will be able to cover you as far as that blown out, furnace or hot water heater. So that would really save you some money as well. And then that could be extended over then to the buyer as well for a year.
Yes.
So yeah, some really good stuff.
Yeah. What was the other thing I was thinking of? Tina, can you think of anything? I just want to say that, for the sellers, I know the buyers are so antsy to get into the house. They're so excited and they'll go, please, come on. I won't tell anyone. Just hand me the keys. Please. I want to go in now. No, if anything happens between now and when you get those numbers back from King County, the listing agent or the seller just screwed up. And, and it's still your house. So if anything was damaged during a move-in that occurred earlier than it should have been, that's on you.
Yeah, so it is definitely a liability.
Yeah. What I have found, and I'll talk about more in the second half when I talk about lenders and closing, but what I have found for a lot of the sellers, in the state of Colorado, we all sit at the same table, the buyers and sellers and everybody at one time. Washington State's just sometimes a little different. But, right now they're sitting at the table. And a lot of times it's nice when the sellers actually write a list. This is the garage door opener. This is the passcodes. These are the keys to the HOA, the clubhouse. These are our neighbors. These are the phone numbers to the neighbors. Whatever it would be to help the buyers. I know a lot of the buyers come in, they don't know the names of the neighbors, emergency phone numbers. They don't know the HOA. They don't know where the fob is to the swimming pool, just stuff like that. But if they could write a list of things, of items, that really would help. And even, who the utilities are. We've got, Lakewood Utilities, and we've got Seattle Public Light, and just stuff like that, really does help the buyers. Because a lot of them are first-time home buyers, and they're with stars in their eyes. How do I get hooked up to water, lights, heat, Electricity isn't all one thing. Sewage. What do I do? What do I do? So if the seller writes a letter to everything, some sellers I've seen actually left books with all the receipts and all of the warranties and everything in a book. That really, really says a lot. It just does a lot for a buyer. So if you're a seller and you have the time to do that, it really would make somebody's life easier.
Yeah, yes. I left a binder with the local amenities, restaurants, the schools, the library, phone number, and different services like dry cleaners and stuff like that they would not know if they were never in that neighborhood. So it was quite helpful for them to know. And there's a little girl 2 doors down that's waiting for your daughter to come play with her, and her name is
Well, I tell you what, I've been watering my plants for a year and a half. I did not realize I had an underground watering system. That was owned and actually by satellite and it triggered with the weather. I mean, automatic. I had no idea for a year and a half that I had that.
You're wondering why the plants were drowning?
Yeah, no, I was out there with my hands for 2 or 3 hours a day. I didn't realize and then somebody came over and said, "What's this?" And all of a sudden these sprinklers came out and they were timed and it was all electrical and I had an app and I didn't know all that, So, I mean, those little things you think, well, yeah, she should know. I didn't, but those little things,
Yeah. A good time to do that would be during the walkthrough. That's usually when buyers and sellers kind of meet each other and they kind of go over a lot of the nuances of the home, and you can share a lot of stuff with them. So
and a lot of times the sellers, they move out or they go on vacation, and a lot of times it's like, we need you to sign. Well, nobody told me that. I'm going on vacation. It's like no, don't do that because we have a signing. So a lot of times if the seller, tell them you've got to be there if something happens. You don't be planning a vacation. You're supposed to close.
All great stuff, ladies. That's so cool. We're halfway through the show, so let's go on a little break.
Tune in to Real Estate and Money every Tuesday afternoon from 2:30 to 3 here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Join your hosts Violeta Strash with John L. Scott Kent North, Elsie Chaudoin with Keller Williams Mountain to Sound and the Elsie Legacy Group, and Tina Lombard with Cardinal Financial. They'll help you navigate the waters of our volatile real estate market and offer you some guidance on how to make your hard-earned money work to make your dreams come true. Learn about current trends, get tips on financial matters, and have fun, interactive discussions about your home inside and out. That's Real Estate and Money.
Great. Okay. So let me go ahead and start talking about closing as far as the lender. If you're a buyer, what are you going to need on this side? Well, the day of closing is your most important day. That's the day that everything happens, all the magic happens. How do you be prepared? Well, first of all, you want to make sure your whole team is there. The real estate agent is there. Your lender is there. If you have any lawyers or anything like that, they can be there. And everybody who needs to sign. And in Washington State, because it's a community property state, and in states like Colorado, your spouse needs to be there, whether they're on the loan or not. They're going to need to sign some type of title work. So make sure that you confer with your escrow officer, not necessarily your realtor, your lender. Confer with your escrow officer who needs to be there. Now, in times of COVID, a lot of times the escrow company or title company, they don't want extra superfluous people there. So if you have your kid, your neighbor, your grandma, your photographer, all that kind of stuff, you don't need, mariachi band. I've seen it. You don't need all that. Okay. So right now you want to call ahead and make sure that the escrow, who can be there, who cannot be there. A lot of times the lenders will be on speakerphone. I make all my meetings unless I'm told we don't have the room. We had curbside here for a couple of months where we would just drive up to the curb. And then, we would do stuff at the curb. So make sure who needs to be there, who's not supposed to be there, and make sure they're all in attendance. And if you're a real estate agent, make sure your lender knows where you're at. When you say it's closing at land title, well, there's 10 land titles on the east side. There's 10 land titles at, the south side. So who's your escrow officer? What's the date? What's the building? Because where you put in your escrow money and your title is not necessarily where you're going to sign. So make sure your lender knows where it's at. And if you want your lender to be there, don't just pick a time out your hat and say Friday at 12. If you want your lender to be there, say, well, Friday at 12 work for you too. Because a lot of times I'm like, I've got 3 other signings or something and they didn't ask me. They're like, where were you? You didn't ask me, something, So make sure you reach out to your lender. Because you know what? A lot of times I'll be sitting in closing and there is not a verbal verification of employment that has been transpired. So you can sit there for 2 hours waiting for that funding to go through. And I'll call the funder and say, what's going on? Well, we don't have the number to their employer. I get it for them. Or I'll call up and I say, what's going on? You've got a fee there that needs to be changed. And I'll call somebody. So that's why you want your lender there. They're not there to hand out cookies or closing gifts. They're there to make sure that you get to funding. So get your money there, get your purse there, get your lender there, and make sure it's a good time for them too. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Don't be calling me, I'm at closing now. It's like, I know I couldn't get there. And then it's like, your funder's not closing. And I got Alice's phone number on the line. I'm like, Alice, when we go to fund? And I can do that. So make sure your lender is there. When you go, make sure that you have your ID. A lot of people show up and they're like, I don't have my ID. You need to have your ID. It needs to be unexpired. You need to have your ID. If you're at a community property state and they say your spouse needs to be there, your spouse needs to be there. You don't need to chase them down. They're not going to take a fax or whatever. They need to be there. It needs to be wet ink. So make sure that your spouse is there and they bring their ID. A lot of times I'll see spouses getting a big giant fight because they didn't tell the other one they need to bring their ID. And funding has stopped. So make sure if your spouse is be there, they also bring their ID. Now, of course, when we get there, I don't see the walkthrough and that sort of thing. That's on the real estate side. But when I do get there, sometimes lenders have what's called prior to funding. And maybe the client needs to bring an extra bank statement, or they need to bring a statement of a Visa card they supposedly paid off, or they need to bring something else. They need to bring the back of the resident alien card. And that is a funding condition. If they do not have that, they will not fund. So a lot of times if your lender says, I need you to bring one more pay stub to close. I need you to bring your resident alien card to close because it was blurred when you sent it over the first time. Bring it. Don't think they're going to say, oh, well, never mind. No, because they're going to need it. So if your lender says you've got things you need to bring to closing, make sure you bring them. And it's not 3 hours later. It's when you go and sit down. Let me see. Homeowners insurance. Make sure your homeowners insurance is dialed in. A lot of lenders will tell you, if you're closing like on the 21st of January, that insurance binder needs to say January 21st. Because just like Bea said a little earlier, if you close on the 21st and it's not binding to the 22nd and there's a hailstorm and your house is thrashed by the time you get your keys, you have no insurance. So I want to make sure that your insurance is handy in case they for whatever reason can't confirm your insurance. Now, closing in most states, in the past, you would sign like on a Tuesday and they would fund on Wednesday. Okay. And that's how it's always been. And now, of course, we'll fund, but the deed and the recording is something different. And that's something that we don't control. That's something that the county controls. But a lot of times nowadays, we actually send the money with the docs. So when you have the docs, you have the money. So there's none of this, oh, I signed, and when are you going to fund? The money is actually there. They just happen to have the authority to fund. So they may have $500,000 sitting in escrow, and we have not released. So it's less pressure than in the past where we wouldn't even send the money until everything was signed. Now we send the money. We just don't authorize you to release them or to fund until we've gone through the package. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some people who actually, they cannot make it to a closing for whatever reason. We actually will send signers to your location. Mm-hmm. If somebody is bedridden or they're remote or just because of COVID, they cannot leave or what have you. We actually can send people. We've sent people to hospital beds. We've sent people poolside in Cancun. I find people. Where are you at? I will sign you. We got a closing date. So we will send somebody that's out. And a lot of times those remote signers are godsend. And they will come out to you. Just make sure you've got your ID with you and you sign everything. And those remote signers are good as gold. They're not halfway there or less than because they're driving to your house. These are very talented people who are licensed to notarize. They know what they're doing. So a lot of times, if you cannot get out and you cannot leave work, you can request a notary signer. And a lot of the closing costs that are involved in your loan already include a notary, a signer. So go ahead and ask for that if necessary. And then after you sign, it should take it should take anywhere from 35 to 60 minutes to sign.
Tina, could you talk a little bit about, funding and wire fraud? And if you're funding and you got a ton of money coming in, is that a good thing to do? From, say, you're in China and you're trying to wire money.
I'm so glad you brought that up. The wire fraud is a huge thing. I've been with several companies where they've sent $350,000 to their own account, to a fraudulent account. These are very seasoned, savvy people. So these criminals are just ridiculous. So make sure you get your wire transfer information straight from escrow, and that is encrypted. And before you send any wire transfer, you call your escrow company and say, is this the wire? Is this the confirmation? Is this your ABA route number? You confirm 3 times if you have to. If somebody just gives you wire information, that's most likely it's fraudulent or it's kind of an unsecured. So make sure that you talk the escrow company. Now, a lot of people will get like maybe $50,000 from their pension, and they wire it to their personal account, and then they bring it to closing. A lot of lenders say, don't do that. That's 3 days worth of paperwork. Just wire it to escrow. Just wire it to escrow, you know. And if that be the case, then you talk to escrow and make sure you get those direct wiring instructions and that they confirm. And make sure you have a receipt from when it leaves and when it is placed. Now, there are places like, let's say, Land Title or Chicago Title, and you just send them $60,000 from Dave Smith. Well, unless there's an escrow number, unless there's an address attached to that wire transfer, there's a gazillion Dave Smiths, and they may not find it. They may be sitting there for 6 hours waiting for that wire, and you sent it, but there's no way for them to recall it. So make sure when you send your wire transfer, you get your escrow number, you put the property address on there, you put your full name, and send it off, and make sure that escrow knows it's coming at this certain time so they can look for it. Yeah.
I just want to show up one day with my like Trader Joe's shopping bag and actually get packets of money, bundles, stacks, put them in my bag.
You're Trader Joe's bag.
That's why you bring your lender. Bring your lender. I mean, bring the money bag. I'm telling you, I go to my meeting, I go to my closings, and I make sure, I make sure I'd rather have a lender at a closing table than somebody giving me a $100 chocolate gift, because if it doesn't go right, you lose your earnest money, you got the movers that are coming tomorrow and you're not closing on time. So bring your money bags there. If your lender says, I'm going to be there, then call them and say, I'm going to do Tuesday at 10. Is that good for you? And find out, not that they're the king of the world, but you want your money bags there. When I go to buy a prom dress, I'm bringing mama, bring your credit card. Bring that, mom. You know what I'm trying to say? You know, saying, give me your credit card over the phone. You make sure you get the money bags there, and make sure the lender knows. I can't tell you how many times the realtor has said, will you be there at closing? It's at 9:30 in the morning. And I'm like, okay, I'm here. And they're like, oh, what's with the other, land title across? I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me? So make sure your lender knows where to go and make sure your clients know where to go. A lot of times they're running around the world trying to look for the right place. So make sure everybody's at the same place at the right time and have your money and your ID and you're ready to go. And last thing I'll say, before people go when they close, when you have your big stack of papers, and I'll show you something really quick here. This was my pack of closing papers when I signed my loan, a couple of years ago. This is a whole giant pack of closing papers, right? You guys seen it, right? And the thing is, you want to pull out the first payment coupon in this big book of things. And most escrow officers will take the first payment program and put it right on top. Or I go there and I say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you take a picture right now of your first payment coupon. Because I guarantee you 40 days from now, you're going to be calling me up asking me where you're going to send your payment. So make sure when you go with your clients, you pull out that first payment coupon in that stack of documents, put it on top, have them take a picture of it on their phone, and put it in the reminders so they know where to make their first payment, because that's their first panic attack is where do I pay? So that's my last tip of the day.
Okay.
Awesome. Hey, you guys, I just wanted to share something really quick before we all leave. So talking about chasing your clients and getting them to sign before the closing so that everything else will kind of close and be on time. So the strangest place that I've actually had to chase a client was the courthouse. So I had a buyer that was in jail and he disagreed with the paperwork. So the first time that they sent the notary to sign the papers, he was, not happy with it. He just wasn't agreeing with it. And so then it came down to trying to get us to go back into the jail system, and that wasn't happening. Finally, I talked to the attorney and she's like, well, on Friday, we're going to be at the courthouse and he is scheduled for a hearing. And so literally I sat there probably from 11 o'clock and I had Scott with me because he was my notary. And we literally got paperwork in by 1:30 to his office so we could then go and get it recorded and everything happened, but it was the strangest place. And literally we had to actually ask the judge, hey, is it okay if the client, I guess, signs some documents because he needs to close on his house. So
okay, we're way over our time, but
all right.
I just want to bring a couple of things up this week. to promote the King County NAMI Mental Health Town Hall live this Thursday at 6. And then the 39th annual Martin Luther King Day celebration, march and rally next Monday, the 18th. So starting at 11 o'clock. So tune into Rainier Avenue Radio and get all the details. Thank you all for joining us today. See you next week at 2:30. Bye.
All righty. Bye now.
Daniel. He left us. Should we keep talking?
Let's sing a song.
Well, stay tuned
glad we
next
have to
week,
come together.
you guys, because we've got renovations, contractors, and Tina will share some tax tips and write-offs on when you sell your home.